One of the most powerful aspects of responders is correlation, or the ability to map a certain request to a certain virtual response. This functionality allows you to use your virtual service in more dynamic scenarios. In this video, we're going to create an example of this using the Hello World virtual service we created earlier. Let's start by double-clicking on my JSON message responder, and we're going to go to my responder correlation tab. So what you can see here is there are a number of different ways of configuring my responder correlation, including the request body, URL parameters, or URL path. So what exactly does responder correlation mean? Well, this is actually telling the responder what kind of request to respond to. So for URL parameters, we're going to specify what parameters the responder should look for and what their value should be. We'll start by checking enable correlation. And then I'm going to add a parameter name called ID and say that its value should equal 1. We'll go ahead and save that correlation setting. The next thing we're going to do is actually create a few other message responders so that we can respond to different kinds of requests, not only when it's just ID equal to 1. So let's copy my existing JSON message responder and then paste it twice more. In my second JSON message responder, I'm actually going to change the correlation to actually be ID equal to 2. And then in my third message responder, I'm actually going to change it to be equal to ID equals to 3. And we'll save that as well. Okay, so the last thing we want to do is actually configure a unique response for each message responder so that we know the correlation is working correctly later. So in the first responder, we're going to change under the response tab, we're going to change my message to be foo. And let's go ahead and change the name of my message responder itself to be equal to what the response is. So we'll just go ahead and say the message responder is named foo. Save that. The second message responder is going to have a response of bar, and the name is going to be bar. And the third message responder is going to have a response value of foobar. And once again, we'll change the name to match the message. Great. So everything is configured. The last thing we have to do, of course, is deploy my virtual service. And the way we do that is by just starting up my virtualized server over here on the right. So I select the server, I click the green play button, and by default, my hello world.pva is going to be deployed at port 9080. So just to validate that my virtual service is working as expected, let's go ahead and open up my browser. And we're going to send some requests to my virtual service through the browser. So it's going to be at localhost 9080/hello world. And we're going to add in an ID here. The ID, let's start with ID equal to 1. So you can see that I'm getting a response from that first message responder, foo. Let's go ahead and change my ID parameter to 2. And I'm getting bar. And finally, let's put in ID equal to 3. And you can see that we're getting foobar. So the very next natural question is, what about requests for which we have no correlation? For example, what if my ID was equal to 5 or 6 or 7? Well, let's go ahead and test it out and see what happens. So let's do ID equal to 5. And you're going to see that we're actually getting an error message here from the virtualized server telling us that we don't have a valid message responder to handle that kind of request. So what we can actually do to never see this error is set up a catch-all inside my virtual service. A catch-all is going to respond to any kind of virtual request or any kind of request no matter what it is. So let's go ahead and quickly add a catch-all. And the way we're going to do that is very simple. We can just go ahead and add a message responder to my responder suite. In this case, it's going to be a JSON message responder. We can go ahead and give it the name catch-all so we know its purpose. And I'm going to add a element into this response again called message. And we'll go ahead and give it the contents of catch-all response. Now for catch-all responders, the correlation is very simple. We just don't set up any responder correlation at all. And that way it will now handle every request that comes along. So going back to my browser, let's go ahead and test out this catch-all responder. We did ID 5 before. Let's just go ahead and send the same request once again. And you can now see that I'm getting my catch-all response. This was only a simple introduction. Virtualize is a powerful tool, and there are many other capabilities to explore. If you're interested in learning more, check out our other videos, or explore Parasoft's forums. Thank you for watching.